Just a quick update on my Monday's mental mistake from the 12th of January about the identifiable victim effect. I asked you to leave in the comments which of the campaigns you found most compelling, and I would donate money to charity on your behalf. Thank you all very much for doing that. On the 19th of January, as I said I would, I counted up the comments and there were 21 comments left for one or the other of the campaigns. Now, I was a little bit sneaky and both campaigns actually came from the same organisation. It's an organisation called the Polaris Project, named after the North Star, which was used apparently by escaping slaves in the US, who would follow the North Star to freedom, or relative freedom, in the northern states during the, I guess, around the time of Civil War. The reason I chose them is, well, there's a few reasons, but basically, charities, it turns out, are not very well assessed or rated. And outside of the US, it's very hard to get good data on charities and how effective they are. So most charities in most countries, in the Western world at least, have to disclose their financial situation, but somebody like myself can't really dig through the mounds of financial information for charitable organisations and actually make sense about whether or not they are effective at what they say they do. In the US though, so that basically meant that I was going to have to restrict myself to US-based organisations, and within the US, the Polaris Project is like the big anti-slavery organisation. They are incredibly well rated. I'll put a link to their charity navigator rating. They are rated as one of the best charities, full stop, and they are by and far, like far and away, the best rated or charity in the field of anti-slavery campaigns. And so it really was a no-brainer in that respect. I would perhaps have liked to have donated to a charity that was working in countries where slavery is not exactly illegal. That said, it was never going to be a huge deal because I had 21 comments. I thought $21 sounded like a little bit, like a bit too tokenistic, so I doubled it, and so I ended up donating $42. Here's a picture of the receipt. So thank you all very much for commenting. If in the future you're considering charitable donations, I really can't recommend the Polaris Project highly enough. They do an incredible amount of good work, and they work at all levels. So they work with people who are slaves, modern slaves in the US, in and around the US. They also work at the highest levels in terms of trying to change laws so as to better protect victims of slavery. They work in partnership with other organisations. They do a hell of a lot of good work. So if you are considering where to donate money to, I really consider the Polaris Project. Modern day slavery, I mean, there are many charitable causes that you could consider donating to. Modern day slavery, I think, is a scourge upon the world, and it is one of the most horrible things I think imaginable. So there you go. Thank you all very much for commenting, and I've donated on your behalf. Interestingly, the video has about 130 views, which is a lot by my standards, and I got 21 comments, which means that, well, considering, let's assume that people double viewed, there would be 60-odd individual views on the video, and of that only, so at most, a third of people chose to comment knowing that money would be donated on behalf of charity. Now, I guess $1 is not a lot, so maybe that wasn't very motivating. I found that an interesting insight into human nature. Anyway, make of that what you will. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you next time. See ya.